Bit of a loaded Cowboys report this afternoon. A lot of ESPN tidbits on the future of George Pickens. I've seen it on social media, so I guess we'll discuss the weird Pickens versus Lamb stuff. Jaydon Blue, if he's going to play this week. Mike McCarthy, going to head to the New York Football Giants. And Malik Hooker, set to return potentially as soon as this week. We'll begin with Hooker after we tell you guys to subscribe to us here on the Cowboys Report. Weekly battle going on between us and Mitchell Renz over at the Raiders Report. They've kind of gained some ground as of late. Help us out. Hit that sub button right now. Malik Hooker is set to make his return to the Dallas Cowboys organization. The Cowboys are opening up his 21-day practice window. As a reminder, that means Cowboys get 21 days for Hooker to practice before he has to be activated. It is a maximum, not a minimum window as he returns from that toe injury he suffered back in Week 4. The Cowboys have hinted that he might be able to play on Monday Night Football. We'll see if that happens or not. One thing that I'm going to monitor with some of the linebacker shuffling that's going on, you're going to have DeMarvion Overshown back, Logan Wilson back. If they do sit Kenneth Murray, who's the green dot play caller? And what ends up happening if it's not Kenneth Murray out there? Could Malik Hooker potentially be your green dot play caller, given Stephen Jones' comments about the communication and stuff there? That's kind of all speculation, but something that I did want to make note of and mention. The Cowboys need to get their safeties healthy. Hooker and Wilson were back at practice on Thursday. Elijah Clark is out, though. Wanye Thomas on the NFI list. Clark has been banged up. We'll see if he can even go. Marquise Bell has not been someone this coaching staff trusts. So the safety play has been bad. They have to get healthy. Let's go to George Pickens. ESPN dropping some insight into what they think will happen with George Pickens this offseason. If you've been subscribed to the Cowboys Report, you probably know where this is going to go. But Pickens was number 4 on ESPN's way too early 2026 free agent rankings, behind guys like, weirdly enough, Daniel Jones, go figure. But the general expectation, as we've discussed, and the Cowboys can afford to do, has been that they will at least tag Pickens. Here's what Jeremy Fowler of ESPN wrote. The Pickens experiment in Dallas has gone swimmingly. He's pacing for 1,400 plus yards, 110 TDs as the ideal counterpart to CeeDee Lamb. His immense talent and the number of teams starved for receiver help will drive his value. Multiple leagues exec believe the inconsistency will be a factor to consider in free agency, but Pickens' results with capable quarterback play are undeniable. He is already on the verge of surpassing his catches and yards totals last year with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He has already passed his touchdown numbers. Barring injury, knock on wood, there is no reason to think it will not be the greatest year of CeeDee Lamb's career, or of George Pickens' career by a pretty significant margin. You don't let those guys hit free agency. Dan Graziano of ESPN says, I believe there is a strong likelihood that the Cowboys franchise Pickens, assuming they're as happy with him by the end of the year as they've been so far. That's why it's tough to answer a question like this at this point of the season. Like, who's the top free agent? Many of the top potential free agents never hit the market because of extensions or because of franchise tags. So do you think the Cowboys will end up using the franchise tag on George Pickens? Y for yes, N for no. Go ahead and let me know in the comment section of today's show. It's the pinned comment, Y for yes, N for no. I think the minimum, worst case outcome is that the Cowboys franchise tag George Pickens. That's going to be roughly 28 and change, maybe 29, I don't know what the exact number comes in at, in terms of your cap hit in 2026. But at minimum, the Cowboys are going to use the franchise tag on George Pickens. They have been very happy on the field, off the field, with how George Pickens has played. You're not going to just let him leave because it's a champagne problem when, as we've discussed, you actually have plenty of money available to pay Pickens and still help your defense. It is not an either-or situation. Cowboys, at minimum, will franchise tag Pickens. Would it be nice if the Cowboys found a way to actually pay him before free agency and unlock even more salary cap space in dollars? Absolutely. Will I be disappointed if they, again, fail to do that? Also, absolutely. But I'd be pretty shocked unless something bad happens down the stretch here in which Pickens isn't back on the Cowboys in 2026. I don't think we have to freak out about that. Today's show is made possible by PrizePicks. The hard-hitting football action is even better with PrizePicks. The weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. Keep the season rolling on PrizePicks by getting $50 instantly in lineups after you play your first $5. PrizePicks is the only app that offers stacks to pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup, only on PrizePicks. Producer Aiden cooked up this one for Monday Night Football. Brock Bowers and Javonte Williams, more than receiving yards and rushing yards, respectively. You can also follow other PrizePicks players directly on the app in the new feed tab on PrizePicks. Hit the follow button and check out every lineup your friend or a partner or someone whose picks you like create. If you haven't already, go download the PrizePicks app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Let's also look at the other notable wide receiver in Dallas. That is CeeDee Lamb. Last 24-ish hours, there's been a lot of weird discussion, I'll call it, on Cowboys Twitter about CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens and having to choose, and Clarence Hill kind of saying that, well, the Cowboys offense has struggled since Lamb returned, which is the definition of correlation versus causation. Let me be clear, as it relates to the Cowboys offense and everything short-term and long-term. You don't have to choose. This is not an either-or situation. And the offense, even though it has been a disappointment the last 2 games, isn't actually your big picture issue. That is very clearly the defensive side of the ball that is causing issues right now. CeeDee Lamb's numbers are down a bit this year. The injuries are a factor. I don't think we have to pretend to forget how good he was back in 2023 and 2022 and how good overall he has been as a legitimate number 1 wide receiver. You need George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb together. That was the whole point of doing that trade. I don't understand how we spent months complaining about the lack of a legitimate wide receiver 2, probably more than months, frankly, to help out CeeDee Lamb, to help out Dak Prescott. Then we get a not just receiver 2, a 1B, and we suddenly can't handle that and start going, well, you just have to move on from one of them or dump them. No, keep them together. Let those 2 have success. Don't get rid of good players. Unless you have to for some reason, which is obviously not the case right now, it doesn't make any sense to me. Because if we move on from one of those guys, we're then immediately complaining about how bad the other receivers are compared to Pickens or Lamb. Stop it. Keep these 2 together. You have the funds. You have the draft picks to do other stuff. Just make it happen. It's not that hard. Let's not complicate those things. Let's focus on the real issues. Red zone play calling, penalties, consistent run game, and of course, almost everything on your defense. It's not that hard. So do you want to keep CeeDee and Pickens together in Dallas? 2, for together, because it's 2. 1, if you want to separate them. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Jaydon Blue was benched, last game, I should say, not last week. I am curious to see if Jaydon Blue plays this week. I think the Cowboys could always call someone up from the practice squad. They can bring back Malik Davis. Jaydon Blue, he got benched because of the fumble. We can call it what it was, setting the standard, whatever. He has not been as impactful as I think any of us would have liked to have seen. And part of that is the offensive line. He hasn't had that many carries, been a lot of just straight up inside runs, garbage time snaps that aren't very valuable there. One thing I would like to see from Jaydon Blue is to be more involved in the passing game. He was very good in that role at Texas. Some drops and fumbling issues overall. That's a concern. But he is explosive with the ball in his hands. He's able to do some real route running stuff. And the Cowboys' receiving game in the backfield has been terrible all year long. 1 catch, 5 yards for Jaydon Blue. Javonte Williams, and look, they're not high leverage moments, but when was the last time a running back screen did anything for Dallas? If they're going to call a screen in the backfield, which I'm hoping they spent some bye-week time trying to adjust that part of the game plan, maybe you let Jaydon Blue do it. Otherwise, continuing to give Javonte Williams targets at 2 to 3 every game, I just don't like that math. So will Jaydon Blue end up playing this week for the Dallas Cowboys? P, for he's going to play. B, for he's going to be on the bench. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. did want to spend a little bit of time on the report, or I guess not the report, the betting lines that indicate Mike McCarthy is the favorite to be the New York Giants' next head coach. I won't be upset if the Giants end up hiring Mike McCarthy. That doesn't really scare me that much. If they do, they probably finally snap the losing streak, whatever. I don't think he was that great of a coach. I don't think he was terrible. Feels like the Giants would kind of be capping their ceiling. I think his offense was a bit outdated. Who's he going to hire as his DC? I think the Giants could do worse. They could certainly do a lot better as well. I think it's worth monitoring. I think you're going to see Mike linked to a lot of jobs. And I think that's kind of going to be the placeholder until like the coaching searches get going and then the real favorites end up emerging. You can go back and look at previous years. Like very rarely does that early favorite end up winning the job unless there's a clear and obvious direct connection tie between the person in charge and the actual head coach. So I am not overly concerned about that one at all. One more note before we go here on today's show. The Cowboys have set up the Memorial Fund for Marshawn Kneeland. It's at marshawnkneelandfund.org. I'll put that link in the comments section and the description of today's show. Several of you had asked about that, so I did want to mention it in a video. Cowboys have set that up in part because Kneeland's girlfriend is pregnant. They want to make sure that she and her unborn child are cared for, which is just as heartbreaking as it gets in general for this story. My suspicion would be the Cowboys are going to handle a lot of that, but I know there have been a lot of questions on that and did want to make note of it too.